Hello Army, welcome back to my channel. Today we are diving into a story that has been circulating across Korean media outlets, and honestly, once you hear all 7 moments laid out together, you will understand exactly why this compilation caught so much attention. A media outlet specializing in Korean pop culture coverage put together a list highlighting 7 unforgettable moments from Jimin's Arirang World Tour, moments that were selected specifically because of how much conversation they generated among fans and casual observers alike. This was not just about his time on stage. It included his interactions with the crowd, the reactions of people around him, and even his personal style choices throughout the tour. So let's go through all 7 of these moments one by one, because each one tells us something a little different about why this tour has become such a defining chapter in his career. The first moment on this list takes us to Brussels, Belgium, during one of the stops on this world tour. In the middle of an intense, high-energy performance, with lights, sound, and choreography all happening simultaneously, Jimin apparently noticed something happening in the crowd that most performers would have completely missed. He picked up on unusual movement among the audience, something that felt off compared to the general excitement everyone else was showing. Rather than simply continuing with the performance and letting the moment pass, he paused just enough to alert nearby staff, indicating that he believed someone in the crowd needed help, possibly having fainted, and asked for immediate assistance to be sent their way. What makes this moment even more remarkable is that he did not just flag the issue and move on. He continued keeping an eye on the situation throughout the rest of the performance, making sure that whoever needed help actually received it safely before he could fully let his attention return to the show. If you think about how difficult that actually is from a performer's standpoint, it becomes even more impressive. Imagine being in the middle of an enormous stadium show, wearing an earpiece, following a set list, hitting choreography cues, and managing your own breathing and vocal control, all while somehow also scanning the crowd closely enough to notice a single person in distress among thousands of people. That level of awareness does not happen by accident. It reflects a kind of instinctive care for the audience that goes far beyond what is expected of any performer on a massive concert stage. Fans who saw footage of this moment circulating online were quick to point out just how much this reflects who Jimin is as a person, not just as an artist. It is one thing to sing well and dance well. It is another thing entirely to notice a stranger struggling in a crowd of tens of thousands and stop everything internally to make sure they get help. This moment ended up leaving a lasting impression precisely because of how genuine and unscripted it felt. There was no way this could have been planned or rehearsed. It happened spontaneously, in real time, in the middle of a live performance, and it showed a side of him that fans have talked about for years but rarely get to see captured so clearly on camera during an actual show. When the footage started circulating, it quickly became one of the most talked about clips from the entire tour, not because of a flashy dance move or a powerful vocal run, but because of a small act of attentiveness that spoke volumes about his character. Moving on to the second moment on this list, we shift focus to something a little lighter but no less talked about, his ever-changing hairstyles throughout the tour. If you have been following BTS at all over the years, you already know that hairstyle changes tend to generate significant conversation within the fandom, but this particular tour seemed to take that conversation to another level entirely. Media coverage specifically highlighted how his hairstyles became an ongoing topic of discussion throughout the tour, with different looks debuting at different stops along the way. One of the specific styles mentioned was his long blonde hair, which media outlets compared to the iconic look of a well-known Disney character, Rapunzel, known for her long flowing golden hair. That comparison alone tells you just how distinctive this particular look was, striking enough that entertainment reporters felt compelled to draw a direct visual comparison to one of the most recognizable hair-related characters in modern pop culture. It is not every day that a hairstyle draws comparisons like that, and the fact that this one did says a lot about just how much attention his overall visual presentation received throughout this tour. Another hairstyle mentioned was a half-up style, which some observers described as resembling a samurai-inspired look. This particular style received a notably warm reception from fans, with many expressing enthusiasm over how well it suited him. What is interesting here is the sheer range on display, moving from something as soft and fairy tale coated as long flowing blonde locks to something as sharp and stylized as a samurai-inspired half-up look, all within the same tour. That kind of versatility in personal style, switching between such different aesthetics and making each one work, is part of what kept fans and media outlets so engaged throughout the tour's run. The third moment on this list moves us away from Jimin himself for a moment and instead focuses on the people around him, specifically the reactions of the crowd and staff members while watching him perform. Video footage circulating from various tour stops captured something genuinely heartwarming: security personnel, event staff, backup dancers, and audience members all smiling while watching him perform. This might sound like a small detail at first, but think about it from a different angle for a moment. Security staff and event crew members work these shows constantly. They see performances night after night, tour after tour, across many different artists. For staff members who are used to the routine of large-scale events, to visibly react with genuine smiles while watching a specific performer is actually a meaningful detail. It suggests a stage presence and energy compelling enough to break through the usual professional detachment that comes with working behind the scenes at a concert. This particular moment, capturing his presence on stage, causing genuine, visible reactions among people whose job it is to remain focused on logistics and security rather than the performance itself, ended up going viral across social media platforms. It is a different kind of validation compared to fan reactions alone. When people who are technically working the event, rather than attending as fans, cannot help but smile and react while watching someone perform, that says something meaningful about the sheer magnetism of that stage presence. The fourth moment on the list takes us to Munich, Germany, and brings us back to that playful, light-hearted energy we touched on earlier. During this particular stop on the tour, Jimin performed what fans and media have since nicknamed the Holland Walk, a playful, exaggerated imitation of the distinctive walking style of a well-known professional football player. For those who might not follow football closely, this particular player's walk has become something of a recognizable meme within sports culture, instantly identifiable to football fans around the world. Seeing Jimin incorporate that same walk into his stage performance, clearly in on the joke and playing it up for the crowd, created an incredibly fun, unexpected crossover moment that resonated with both his existing fanbase and casual football fans who happened to catch clips of it online. This moment is a great example of how effectively humor and playfulness translate on a massive stage. Concerts of this scale are often associated with intense choreography, powerful vocals, and high production value spectacle. But moments like this Holland Walk remind everyone watching that behind all of that polish and precision, there is still room for genuine playfulness and humor. Fans responded enthusiastically to this moment specifically because it felt so spontaneous and so clearly rooted in genuine personality rather than rehearsed showmanship. It is the kind of moment that humanizes a performer on a massive stage, reminding tens of thousands of people in the audience that they are watching someone with a real sense of humor, not just a polished performing machine. The fifth moment on this list brings us to Goyang, and revisits a performance element that longtime fans immediately recognized. During his performance of the song Spring Day, a track that holds enormous emotional significance for the fandom given its history and meaning, he perfectly recreated a specific, iconic dance sequence associated with that song. Longtime fans will know exactly the sequence being referenced here, a movement so beloved and so tied to the emotional weight of that particular song that seeing it faithfully recreated during this tour sparked immediate, overwhelming nostalgia among fans watching, whether in person or through fan-recorded footage online. There is something particularly powerful about revisiting a moment like this specifically because Spring Day itself carries such deep emotional resonance within the fandom. It is not just any song, it is one that many fans associate with some of their most meaningful memories connected to this group. Seeing that specific choreographic sequence recreated with the same precision and emotional weight as its original performance created a genuinely moving moment for longtime fans in the audience, bridging the gap between the group's earlier era and this current chapter of Jimin's individual touring career. The sixth moment on this list shifts away from the stage entirely and moves towards something much more casual, an airport appearance captured while he was departing for a show in Japan. Airport fashion has long been a significant point of interest within K-pop fan culture, with idols' travel outfits often generating just as much online conversation as their actual stage performances. In this particular instance, once photos and video footage of his departure outfit were released, his overall styling quickly became one of the most talked about topics online that day, with fans and casual observers alike praising just how effortlessly elegant the look appeared. This might seem like a smaller, less significant moment compared to some of the others on this list, but it is worth remembering just how much attention airport fashion moments generate within this particular fan culture. These are not staged, produced looks designed specifically for cameras and choreographed lighting. These are essentially candid, real-world outfit choices, made while simply trying to travel comfortably between tour stops, and yet they consistently generate the same level of styling-related conversation as a fully produced stage outfit would. That says something meaningful about the level of consistent style and presence maintained even during the more mundane, logistical parts of touring life. The seventh and final moment on this list brings us back to London, and to a specific accessory that ended up becoming one of the most talked about details of the entire tour, a brown knit hat featuring a distinctive pointed ear design, worn during the very first day of performances in that city. This particular hat, thanks to its unique and eye-catching design, immediately caught the attention of fans watching both in person and through online coverage of the show. Almost immediately after appearing in photos and videos from that performance, the hat reportedly sold out completely, driven by an overwhelming wave of interest from fans eager to get their hands on the exact same item. This specific moment has since become something of a shorthand example within the fandom for what people jokingly, but accurately, refer to as the Jimin effect, a term used to describe the phenomenon of items he wears or uses experiencing sudden, dramatic surges in demand, often selling out almost immediately after being spotted in public. This is not the first time something like this has happened throughout his career, but the specific detail of this particular hat, with its distinctive pointed ear design, made it a particularly memorable example, distinctive and visually striking enough that it stuck in people's minds well after the initial wave of online conversation about it had passed. I also want to take a moment to talk about how this specific type of story tends to travel internationally, reaching audiences far beyond Korea itself. A story rooted in Korean entertainment journalism, covering a live event that happened across multiple different countries throughout Europe, requires a fairly extensive translation and amplification network to reach international fans quickly. Within hours of this list being published in Korea, translated versions and summaries began circulating across fan-run social media accounts dedicated specifically to keeping international audiences updated on exactly this kind of news. That rapid, community-driven translation effort is part of why stories like this one managed to reach such a wide, geographically diverse audience so quickly after their original publication. Now that we have gone through all 7 of these moments individually, I want to take a step back and talk about why this specific compilation resonated so strongly once it started circulating across social media and fan communities. What I find particularly interesting about this list is just how varied these 7 moments actually are. We are not just talking about 7 great vocal performances or 7 impressive dance breaks. We are talking about a genuinely diverse range of experiences, spanning genuine acts of care and awareness toward a stranger in the crowd, playful humor incorporating outside pop culture references, deeply nostalgic recreations of beloved choreography, and even fashion-related moments happening well outside the context of an actual performance. That range is exactly what makes this particular tour, and this particular compilation of standout moments, feel so complete as a portrait of who Jimin is as both a performer and a person. If this list had only focused on performance-related highlights, it would have told us plenty about his skill and stage presence, but it would have left out an entire dimension of what fans and media outlets clearly found so compelling about this specific tour. Including moments like the incident in Brussels, where his attentiveness to the crowd took precedence over the performance itself, even briefly, adds a layer of humanity to this list that goes beyond typical concert highlight compilations. I also want to talk for a moment about why media outlets specifically chose to frame this as a definitive, numbered list of standout moments, rather than simply publishing a general recap article about the tour as a whole. Numbered lists like this tend to perform incredibly well in terms of engagement, precisely because they create a clear, easily digestible structure for readers to follow. But beyond the format itself, choosing to specifically highlight these 7 particular moments, out of what was certainly hundreds of hours of footage across an entire world tour, reflects a deliberate editorial decision about which aspects of this tour felt most worth remembering and celebrating. I also want to point out something interesting about the geographic spread represented across these 7 moments. Brussels, Munich, Goyang, London, and various other stops along the way, this list essentially takes us on a small world tour of its own, spanning multiple countries and continents within a single compilation. That geographic diversity reflects the sheer scale of what a solo world tour actually involves logistically, moving an entire production, crew, and performer across dramatically different cities, cultures, and audiences, all while somehow maintaining a consistent level of quality and connection with fans at every single stop along the way. Let's also talk about the broader context of what it means for an individual member's solo world tour to generate this level of sustained media coverage and fan engagement throughout its entire run. Touring is part of a full group, with 7 members sharing stage time, vocal duties, and overall spotlight, is a very different experience compared to carrying an entire individual world tour on your own. Every moment on that stage, every interaction with the crowd, every outfit choice throughout the tour, becomes attributed entirely to that one individual artist. There is nowhere to share the spotlight, no other member's moment to balance out a quieter stretch of the show. That makes compilations like this one, highlighting 7 completely distinct standout moments throughout a single solo tour, even more impressive, because it reflects a tour that maintained a consistently high level of engagement and memorable content from start to finish, rather than relying on just 1 or 2 major highlight moments to carry the entire narrative. I also want to bring up how these moments interact with each other when viewed as a complete set rather than as isolated incidents. On their own, each of these 7 moments is memorable in its own right. But when placed together in a single compilation, they start to reveal a broader pattern about consistency. This was not a tour defined by a single viral moment surrounded by otherwise unremarkable stops. This was a tour where practically every location produced something distinct and memorable enough to be included in a definitive, curated list. That kind of consistent standout energy, stop after stop, city after city, is genuinely difficult to sustain across an entire world tour, and it speaks to just how much effort and authentic connection went into every single show. I also want to spend a little time discussing the Brussels moment again, because I genuinely think it deserves even more attention than a single mention earlier in this video. In an industry where performers are constantly told to stay focused, stay on cue, and prioritize hitting every mark of a heavily choreographed and produced show, choosing to pause internally, redirect attention toward a stranger's safety, and continue monitoring that situation throughout the rest of the performance reflects a genuine, unscripted instinct toward care. This was not a moment built into the show's production. This was not something rehearsed with the tour's creative team in advance. This was a spontaneous, real-time decision made in the middle of an enormous, high-pressure live performance, and it says something meaningful about priorities and character that no amount of polished stage choreography ever could. I also want to bring up how moments like the one in Brussels tend to shift the overall tone of how a tour gets remembered in the long run. It would have been very easy for coverage of this tour to focus exclusively on production value, vocal performances, choreography, and setlist choices, the kinds of technical details that typically dominate concert reviews. Instead, the inclusion of a genuine, unscripted act of care toward an audience member shifts the entire framing of how this tour gets discussed and remembered. It adds an emotional through line that connects performer and audience in a way that pure technical excellence alone never fully can. Let's also revisit the hairstyle-related moment for a bit longer, because I think there is an interesting deeper conversation to have about why hairstyle changes generate this much conversation within K-pop fan culture specifically. Unlike Western pop and rock touring culture, where artists often maintain a fairly consistent visual identity throughout an entire tour cycle, K-pop artists frequently experiment with dramatically different hairstyles, sometimes shifting from show to show or even mid-tour. This creates an ongoing sense of visual discovery and anticipation among fans, wondering what the next stop on the tour might reveal in terms of styling choices. The specific comparison to Rapunzel, a globally recognizable character known specifically for long, flowing blonde hair, shows just how far this particular look resonated, striking enough to warrant comparison to one of the most iconic hair-related characters in all of modern pop culture and media. I also want to touch on how hairstyling choices during a world tour often reflect broader creative collaboration between the artist and their styling team, adapting to each city, each stage design, and even each setlist moment. A blonde, flowing look might pair beautifully with a softer, more atmospheric segment of the show, while a sharper, half-up samurai-inspired style might suit a more intense, high-energy portion of the setlist. Fans who pay close attention to these details often enjoy piecing together how each hairstyle choice complements the specific mood or segment of the show it appeared in, adding another layer of appreciation beyond simply enjoying the look itself. I also want to touch again on that airport fashion moment, because I think it reflects something important about the blurred line between public and private life that comes with this level of fame. An airport departure is, in most contexts, a fairly mundane, logistical part of daily life. It is not a curated, produced moment designed for maximum visual impact. And yet, for someone at this level of visibility, even that mundane moment becomes a significant point of public interest and conversation. that constant visibility, where literally every public appearance, no matter how small or routine, becomes a subject of widespread conversation and analysis, is honestly one of the more demanding aspects of fame at this scale, and it is worth acknowledging just how consistently well received his presentation remains, even during those unplanned, in-between moments of daily touring life. I also want to bring up how airport-style moments like this one differ meaningfully from red carpet or award show fashion coverage. Red carpet looks are almost always the product of extensive planning, involving stylists, designers, and weeks of preparation before a single major event. Airport departures, by contrast, typically happen on a much tighter timeline, often early in the morning, in between shows, with far less room for elaborate styling decisions. The fact that these more casual, time-constrained looks still consistently generate this much positive attention says something meaningful about an inherently strong sense of personal style, one that holds up even without the luxury of extensive preparation time. Now let's circle back to that sold-out hat one more time, because I think the broader concept of the so-called Jimin effect deserves a bit more unpacking. This is not a new phenomenon specific to this tour. Throughout his career, there have been numerous instances of specific items he has worn or used experiencing sudden, dramatic spikes in demand and sales almost immediately after public appearances. What makes this particular hat notable within that broader pattern is the specificity and visual distinctiveness of the item itself. A pointed ear knit hat is not a generic, easily replaceable fashion accessory. It has a very specific, recognizable design, which likely contributed to just how quickly it became associated with this particular tour stop and this particular moment, rather than blending into the broader category of general merchandise or fashion-related content. I also want to talk about how quickly this kind of demand surge tends to happen once a specific item gets associated with a moment like this. In today's social media environment, a single clear photo or video clip can circulate to millions of viewers within hours, and for a highly engaged, well-organized fanbase like this one, that visibility translates almost immediately into direct purchasing action. Retailers and brands connected to items that experience this kind of sudden attention often report selling through inventory far faster than any of their original sales projections anticipated, precisely because this kind of demand surge does not follow typical, gradual retail patterns. I also want to bring up how this entire compilation reflects something important about the evolving relationship between artists and their audiences in the current media landscape. Every single one of these 7 moments was captured, shared, and amplified specifically because fans in attendance, and fans watching footage online afterward, chose to highlight and circulate these specific clips and photos. This is not top-down, centrally produced content pushed out through official channels. This is organic, fan-driven documentation and amplification, reflecting what real audiences actually found meaningful and worth sharing throughout the entire run of this tour. The fact that a media outlet specifically compiled this list based on which moments generated the most sustained conversation shows just how much influence audience engagement now has in shaping the broader public narrative around a tour. I also want to mention how compilations like this one tend to differ significantly depending on which media outlet or fan community puts them together. Different observers, watching the exact same tour, often end up highlighting completely different moments based on what personally resonated with them. The fact that this particular list, compiled through what appears to have been careful consideration of overall audience reaction and engagement, managed to capture such a well-rounded, widely agreed upon set of highlights suggests a genuinely strong consensus among fans and casual observers about which moments truly defined this specific tour. Let's also talk about how this list functions as a kind of time capsule for this specific chapter of his career. Years from now, when fans look back on this particular world tour, compilations like this one are likely to serve as a helpful, easily digestible summary of what made this specific tour so memorable. Rather than needing to sift through hundreds of hours of full concert footage, fans can revisit a list like this and immediately be reminded of the specific moments that define this tour's overall narrative, from the emotional weight of the Brussels moment, to the playful energy of the Holland Walk, to the nostalgic power of that spring day recreation. I also want to bring up how future documentaries, retrospective interviews, or anniversary content often draw directly from exactly these kinds of curated highlight compilations when deciding which moments to revisit and expand upon. A well-constructed list like this one essentially does a lot of the initial curation work that future content creators, whether official or fan-made, will likely reference when looking back on this era. In that sense, this compilation is not just a snapshot of current fan sentiment, it is also likely to directly influence how this specific tour gets remembered and retold for years to come. I also want to acknowledge how impressive it is that this list manages to balance both on-stage and off-stage moments so evenly. 3 of these 7 moments, the crowd reaction footage, the airport fashion appearance, and the sold-out hat moment, happened entirely outside the context of an actual performance. That balance reflects just how much of an artist's overall public narrative now extends well beyond the boundaries of the actual concert stage itself. In today's media environment, an artist's presence and public perception is shaped just as much by candid, in-between moments as it is by the actual produced content of a live show. I also want to talk about why this particular balance between onstage and offstage content feels increasingly representative of how fame functions in the current era more broadly. A decade or two ago, an artist's public narrative was shaped almost entirely by officially produced content, scheduled interviews, and curated media appearances. Today, that narrative is shaped just as heavily by candid fan-captured footage, spontaneous moments caught on camera, and organically circulating clips that were never intended to be part of any official promotional campaign in the first place. This list is a perfect example of that shift, built almost entirely from moments that emerged naturally throughout the tour, rather than from anything specifically staged or promoted in advance. Before we start wrapping up, I want to circle back one final time to the Brussels moment, because out of all 7 entries on this list, I genuinely believe it carries the most lasting emotional weight. Concerts are, at their core, massive, carefully produced spectacles, built around choreography, lighting, sound design, and immense technical precision. It would have been completely understandable, and honestly expected, for a performer in the middle of that kind of high-pressure production to simply continue through the performance without breaking focus. The fact that this specific moment involved a conscious choice to prioritize a stranger's well-being, even briefly, in the middle of everything else happening on that stage, is exactly the kind of detail that transforms a good concert highlight into a genuinely meaningful, character-defining moment. I also want to point out how rare it is for a single moment from a concert to be discussed with this much depth and sincerity well after the actual show has ended. Most concert highlights, even genuinely impressive ones, tend to generate excitement in the immediate aftermath before gradually fading from conversation as newer content takes their place. The fact that this specific moment continues to come up in conversation, continues to be cited as a defining example of character and awareness, and continues to resonate with new viewers encountering the footage for the first time, speaks to just how uniquely powerful this particular moment truly was. As we bring this list together as a whole, I think what stands out most is just how complete a picture these 7 moments paint, not just of a successful world tour, but of the person behind that tour. Moments of genuine care and awareness, playful humor, deep nostalgic connection to the group's shared history, and consistently striking personal style, all woven together across a single tour, create a compilation that feels less like a simple highlight reel and more like a meaningful reflection of character, artistry, and connection with fans built over years of dedicated work. I also want to add one final reflection before we move into the closing thoughts of this video. Compilations like this one, built from real, unscripted moments captured across an entire world tour, remind us of something important about what actually resonates with audiences in the long run. It is rarely the most technically flawless performance, or the most expensive stage production, that ends up defining how people remember a tour. More often, it is these smaller, genuine, unplanned moments, a quick act of kindness toward a stranger, a playful joke shared with the crowd, a nostalgic callback to an earlier era, that end up carrying the most lasting emotional weight. This particular list captures the truth perfectly, offering 7 completely different examples of exactly the kind of authentic connection that turns a good concert into a genuinely unforgettable one. I want to know which of these 7 moments resonated with you the most. Was it the Brussels moment, with its unexpected display of genuine care for a stranger in the crowd? Was it the playful Holland walk that had everyone laughing? Or maybe it was that emotional spring day recreation that brought back so much nostalgia for longtime fans? Let me know down in the comments which moment stuck with you the most. I would love to read through your thoughts and reactions. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you have not already subscribed to the channel, now is a great time to join the community here. I cover BTS news, individual member updates, tour coverage, and moments just like these on a regular basis, so subscribing and turning on notifications means you will never miss an update when new stories like this one come out. Thank you all so much for watching, Army. Compilations like this one are always some of my favorite videos to put together, because they remind us just how much depth and heart goes into every single stop of a tour like this one, far beyond just the performances themselves. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video.